From KPFK Pacifica Radio, this is Rising Up with Sonali, and I'm your host, Sonali Kolhatkar. You can watch this program on Free Speech TV and listen to it on Pacifica radio stations and affiliates nationwide. The rideshare app company Uber is making its initial public offering on Friday and is hoping for a whopping $91 billion valuation, which would make it the biggest such offering in years. The company has set aside about 3% of its shares for its drivers, a benefit only about a quarter of them will receive. Uber and Lyft drivers have long been unhappy about their treatment at the companies they work for and have planned a one-day strike on Wednesday, May 8th, 2 days ahead of Uber's IPO. The strike is the latest action by drivers in cities across the country, with the last one taking place on March 25th. This next strike is being organized by rideshare drivers in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. We turn to James Hicks, a rideshare driver and organizer with Rideshare Drivers United, joining me in Los Angeles. And we had spoken to him about the May 25th strike. Welcome back, James.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for joining us. So, what happened what was the result, I should ask, of the 25-hour strike that took place March 25th, and why are drivers striking again on May 8th?
The strike went well. We had a huge turnout. We're striking again because our demands were not met by Uber or Lyft, and so we are going to put more and more pressure on them. And we're going to continue striking until they respond the way that we want them to. But it was a positive. We had 350 people join us last time, and this time we're expecting about 500, maybe even 600 people, and we have people who are ready to cause action, not only in many cities in America, but also worldwide.
Now, of course, the idea behind a strike is that workers use the biggest leverage that they have, which is their labor, and withhold it in order to pressure the employer. And I use the word employer in quotes because, of course, Uber and Lyft have been resisting actually treating drivers like you as their employees. So the question is, do these strikes make enough of a dent in the app's use that customers feel the strike? Were there fewer drivers on the road? Were there longer wait times? Did Uber and Lyft feel the pressure?
Uh, I know that passengers for sure felt the pressure. One story I can quote is when my wife went to work. She works with a colleague who takes Uber all the time. She lives within only a few minutes from her work, and it actually took her about 15 minutes to get an Uber ride last time. So that's a huge win. There are other reports of also people who struck the entire day, and it made it really difficult for people to get around. Not impossible, of course. There were people who were still driving, but we were able to make it hard for some people. And with even more drivers getting ready to protest, like I said, about 500, maybe even 600 people, and with even more people in our network, last time we only had 2,800 people. Now we have upwards of 4,500 people. We are beginning to see a bigger impact, definitely in more waiting times. And as far as how it's going to affect Uber and Lyft, with these 15 to 20 cities worldwide, we're expecting a small dent, yes.
So the major hubs where the strike is taking place are dealing with or trying to send a message not just to Uber and Lyft, but I understand also to municipalities, right? Here in Los Angeles, where you are based, I know that LA Mayor Eric Garcetti has not supported the Drivers' Bill of Rights that Rideshare Drivers United has been demanding. Can you tell us a little bit about what's transpired and also what this Bill of Rights is?
Yes. He has made it clear that he wants to serve corporate billionaires. And it's a real shame when you elect someone who refuses to side with the people who put him into office. However, I don't want to focus on that negativity. I'd rather focus on the politicians who are hearing us, who have given us a voice. And we are thankful to say that Governor Gavin Newsom and his team has heard our request. We also would like to say, give a thank you to our friend Assemblywoman Lorena S. Gonzalez, and also we met with Senator Bill Dodd's chief of staff. All three of those politicians have heard our requests. They know what we're asking for, and we have their support. And the three of them are going to be a much needed ally, more than Mayor Garcetti is going to be to us. And as far as our Bill of Rights, we have a few things that are in them. One thing is we want a $28 an hour minimum. We want a 10% cap on Uber and Lyft, and we want an appeals process, um, more transparency when people get deactivated. And just so people know, that $28 an hour, that's including expenses. Without expenses, it really comes down to about $17, $18 an hour, which is only $2 more than the national average that Bernie Sanders is pushing with $15 an hour.
And of course, that $15 an hour demand is several years old now, and even that doesn't seem adequate, right, for what people really need to survive. You mentioned the 10% cap. Is that the cap on Uber and Lyft's commission, which is the percentage that they take from drivers?
Yes, absolutely. It's imperative that they get capped at 10% because at the moment they're stealing upwards of 40 to 60%. And even in one case in particular that I have seen, 90%.
Oh my
If you go
goodness.
to, yeah, if you go to our Instagram, Rideshare Drivers United, you can see where one of the drivers was paid $3 and a rider paid $41.
Wow. Okay, so essentially, for the service of connecting drivers with riders, Uber and Lyft are taking these exorbitant percentages of driver fares. But already the fares are pretty low. And Uber, I understand, is losing money on each ride. I suppose it's the sort of Amazon model, just try to eat up as much of the lion's share of the market as possible, even while making a loss, so that one can gain market supremacy someday in the future. And it seems to have worked for Amazon. I suppose Uber thinks it'll work for them as they make the initial public offering.
I think that whole sentiment is a misconception.
Hmm.
There is no way that Uber is operating at a loss.
Hmm.
They already have three-quarters of the industry in California alone. Just anecdotally, when I used to drive for Lyft, I would have people all the time saying, I'm getting in the Uber. And I'd have to correct them, I'm getting in a Lyft. But whenever I drive for Uber, I have never had anybody say, I'm getting in a Lyft. That's just how popular and strong their word is. Now, on a more concrete monetary amount, they offer their CEOs and CFOs 50, 40 and $50 million a year. And with them stealing 30% to about 60% of riders' fares, there's no way that they are operating at a loss. What they're doing is they are investing money in things that they have no business investing in.
Such as?
They are trying to automate. They are
Right.
trying to
The
automate.
driverless cars,
And
right?
yes, they're investing in driverless cars. So what they're doing is they are price gouging their consumers, and most consumers think that we are probably making 10%. We are making 90%, 85, 90% of the fare because we're doing 85 to 90% of the work. Unfortunately, the writers, like I said, when we saw the receipt where the guy who made $3 and the writer paid $41, that's price gouging on the consumer side, but that's also wage theft on the employee side. So where did the other $39 go? They're definitely making a profit because that's not the only driver that's happened to.
Now, the demands that Uber and Lyft drivers make $28 an hour minimum, because after expenses it would work out to $17 an hour. I understand that that's based on what New York drivers have won.
Yes, we're following a similar pattern that New York followed. We are not necessarily sure. I don't have the numbers of what it would be for California, but seeing as those New York and California are two of the most expensive cities to live in America, we would like to see at least 17, 18, even though with the rent continuing to go up, with wages dropping and inflation, drivers should definitely be making a lot more than 17 because of where we live and how much rent is and how much just the basics of living are living in this state and in this city.
So tell us what's going to happen May 8th, first in Los Angeles, where you're based, and then and some of the other cities.
Well, on Wednesday, May 8th, we are hoping that we can have as many drivers that will show up. Last time, as I said, we had 350 drivers show up on the 25th, which was a massive jump from 120 drivers that showed up in January. So we're expecting about 500 to 600 people. And as you know, we have people that are going to join us in protests in San Francisco and San Diego. But Chicago will be in the mix. Atlanta will be in the mix as well. New York is protesting. And then we also even have countries all across the world who are going to join us. So we're expecting a worldwide moment of solidarity. Um, oh, and just to add, my other colleague, Nicole, and I, we went and we spoke at a longshoreman rally who are also facing automation. We showed solidarity with them, and we're also expecting them to join us on Wednesday and show solidarity with us too.
And the LA action, I understand, is happening at the airport, and then there will be a rally.
Yes, there will be a rally at 12 o'clock, but we're going to be meeting. I think the first picket starts about 5 a.m. And we're going to have drivers between Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 at LAX, but this is definitely an LA Metro strike, or actually a worldwide strike, but yes.
And of course, Los Angeles International Airport being one of the most busy airports in the world with not very good public transportation options, usually is a place that people tend to have very, very busy ride sharing activity happening there as passengers. Come to and from the airport. I'm assuming that you're hoping to get the attention of consumers, right?
Yeah, we definitely want the attention of the consumer. We want them to know what's going on, and we know that it's going to be an inconvenience. And we really wish that we would not have to do this. It would be more beneficial for everyone if Uber and Lyft just paid a living wage. But to make noise, you have to be seen. And when we're there, we're going to be respectful to people. We're not going to cause a ruckus. We're going to cause a ruckus, but we're not going to be disrespectful to property. We're not looking to riot. We've had very successful, peaceful protests in the past, and we are looking to continue that. Just another peaceful protest, and we want the consumers to be on our side. Yes.
Now, the company Uber, Lyft already made its IPO, and Uber is now following suit. And as I mentioned on Friday, it's hoping to be valued at $91 billion, which would make it one of the largest such IPOs in recent history. And it's offering 3% of stock to drivers. Do you think that that's in response to this widespread sentiment among drivers that they're very unhappy with this company? And is it enough, or is this PR?
It's definitely PR. The drivers being disgruntled is a huge problem for Lyft and Uber. And when the Lyft IPO launched, it was $75. It peaked at 88. But
Per
I think if
share.
you look right now, yeah, per share. And if you look right now, it's about 55 to $60. And I think that we had a massive deal with that. We contributed to that, and we're looking to have the same kind of impact on Uber. They have a bunch of angry drivers who are not being paid enough, and they're trying to um, give us 3% only as a means to shut us up. When what we really want is a living wage.
So rather than stock offerings, you prefer a living wage, which of course is completely reasonable. Stock offerings are usually sort of bonus added benefits to employees that might already be making a living wage, right? I mean, so it sounds as though Uber and Lyft are trying to get their drivers to invest in their company, rather than just get a fair salary. On going back to the demands that you've made, the driver's bill of rights, I understand that one of the things that you're asking for is transparency. You have something listed as TNC transparency in your driver's bill of rights. What is that?
Yes, we have a problem with deactivations across Uber and Lyft.
And what does that
Uh,
mean? What are
a,
deactivations?
a customer, a rider can say anything that they want. about a driver, and some of those things may not even be true. And then the driver has to fend for themselves with a nameless, faceless arbiter. And
So you're talking about driver reviews?
no, not a driver review. We're talking about driver complaints, or when a
Oh,
rider has a
complaints.
complaint
Okay.
on a
Right, right, right.
driver, right? Um, so in one particular case, I had someone in my car who had smoked weed before they got in, and when they left, their smell still lingered. Um, I actually forgot to spray. Somebody else gets in the car, and they said that they thought that I was driving under the influence,
Oh,
but
wow.
I don't smoke marijuana. So the very next day, I tried to log on to go to work, and I could not go to work. I actually had to call them to find out why my account was turned off. They didn't call me. They didn't even send me an email.
So no,
I
no
had to
due process for drivers,
no due
basically.
process, no due process. I had to explain to them that I've been driving for 3 years, and if I were a marijuana smoker, a weed smoker, then this would not have been the first complaint that you guys would have had in the 3 years that I've been driving. Uh, Thankfully they did see it my way and they turned my app on. But that's the kind of things that we're dealing with, and we have much more deeper problems than the one that I've dealt with that other people are dealing with. And we just need a better process so that when deactivations happen, there is somebody who can advocate for the drivers, because at this point there isn't anyone.
And of course, that is the role that often a union can play. So let's talk about the other demand, which is a voice on the job. I understand that basically, eventually, maybe there's a long-term goal of unionizing, that you want the right to organize without retaliation.
Yes, absolutely. We admire unions, and we respect them with the highest respect. Unions, they protect drivers, they protect workers from greedy bosses. They protect us when we fall injured, or when we're terminated without cause. Unions are very important to the foundation of the working class in America, and it's time for drivers to have their own union. It's time for us to have our own voice. And according to the Supreme Court in California, the Dynamex ruling, we deserve our voice. We deserve a union because they have ruled that we are employees.
So, and
So
that is a big issue that Uber and Lyft has long wanted to treat drivers as some sort of independent contractors, which then allows them to not give you benefits. So you're saying now Uber and Lyft are forced to treat you like employees?
yes, they are both breaking the law. And I know that that's strong language, but it is true. They are both breaking the law, and they are misclassifying their drivers as independent contractors so that they can avoid making the kind of payments that employees get: the employee benefits, a minimum wage, workers' compensation, our taxes. These are all the things that they don't want to provide, even though we fit the bill of employees, and that's what the Dynamex ruling is about. So it's important that we get that.
And so you had mentioned earlier that California Governor Gavin Newsom had agreed with you as expressing solidarity. He's the governor of California, so he carries a lot of clout and a lot of weight. What sort of support is Newsom offering? And with Newsom in your corner, it seems as though you should be able to achieve the goals and the demands that you're making.
What I want to say is, Governor Gavin Newsom's team met with us, and they were very receptive to the things that we had to say. We did not meet with him personally, and we don't know exactly what he's going to do. We know that he's between a rock and a hard place. And when we spoke with his team, they were very receptive. They heard every concern that we had. They are former labor workers themselves. So we believe that because they gave us such a positive response, that they brought our matters to the governor, and that he also shared a similar sentiment. We believe that he's going to be an ally. We're expecting him to be an ally because, many of us voted for him, myself included, and we voted for him to, stand for and protect the people from billionaires who don't need protection because they have billions of dollars. The people who need his protection and support are us.
So I am assuming that the May 8th 24-hour strike will continue to be one of ongoing numbers of strikes, right? So the timing of this is linked to Uber's IPO on Friday, and it's unlikely that Uber will suddenly see the light and start treating its drivers fairly. What's next? What's coming up after May 8th for you and for Rideshare Drivers United?
Well, we are going to pay very close attention to the IPO. We launched this strike on May 8th on purpose. We did this because we thought that we'd be within that window, and we're glad that we hit it. And this is not going to be the last strike. We're definitely going to do more strikes, and we're going to continue to gain our numbers. We're expecting another explosion of drivers. At this point, we have 4,500, and who knows where we're going to be at the end of Wednesday. And we're also expecting that we're going to have an even more continued um, conversation with the other cities worldwide who have joined us. We're expecting to start a worldwide movement, and it looks like it's going to happen.
Give out a website, James, where people can find out more about the work you do and also support you.
Drivers-united.org. You can support us whether you're a driver, you can support us whether you're a passenger and you want to help unite. We also have a Twitter, which is @_drivers_united. You can find us on Facebook, Rideshare Drivers Unite, and you can also find us on Instagram, Rideshare Drivers United.
We'll post links to those from our website. Good luck to you, James.
Thank you very much, Sonali.
My guest has been James Hicks. He's a rideshare driver and organizer with Rideshare Drivers United in Los Angeles. We've been discussing the May 8th Uber and Lyft drivers strike. I'm Sonali Kolhatkar. We're online at risingupwithsonali.com, where you can sign up for our daily newsletter. Also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at RU with Sonali.